Welcome to the deep dive. There's been a lot of talk about advanced AI like ChatGPT, right? You've probably been hearing about it everywhere.
Oh, absolutely. It's hard to miss. Scientists, journalists, educators,
Right.
everyone seems to have an opinion on where this is all heading.
And you see these huge investments like Microsoft putting billions into OpenAI. That definitely says something about its perceived potential.
It really does.
Yeah.
But, while we talk about these futuristic AIs, we're already using simpler AI constantly. It's in our phones, our devices.
That's true. We interact with it daily. So the big question is, what happens when these AI capabilities take a significant leap forward?
Exactly. And that's what we want to explore today. Instead of just hypotheticals, let's get concrete.
Right. We're going to dive into a specific field, cell phone network engineering, see how something like ChatGPT might actually impact the work there based on, real experience.
Yeah, get a feel for the nuances. Our mission here is to understand the potential by looking at a practical example.
Okay, so cell networks. Huge amounts of data these days, right? Algorithms must already be pretty important.
Definitely crucial. They handle so much of the background operations because the scale is just enormous.
So let's take a really specific task, something relatable. Building a new cell tower. Where do you put it? And the key question for us, how high do the antennas need to be?
Antenna height. That's fundamental. It's basic physics, really. Higher antenna generally means wider signal reach.
Like a light bulb on a pole?
Sort of, yeah. The higher up, the further the light spreads. Same principle, roughly.
And our source material comes from someone who spent, 25 years answering that exact question. How high should the antennas be?
That's right. And traditionally, it wasn't simple. It involved complex simulations, but also a lot of practical experience. Heuristics, engineers call them.
Rules of thumb, basically, developed over time.
Exactly, that gut feeling combined with the data. So the obvious next step was, okay, can ChatGPT handle this?
The experiment. Asking the AI to figure out the antenna height.
Yeah. And the results, well, they were interesting. The quality was all over the place initially. Some responses were surprisingly good, almost spot on. Others were, frankly, way off.
That sounds about right for where things are. Not quite reliable out of the box for complex stuff.
But the really fascinating part was the interaction. To get a decent answer, the person had to keep refining the question, tweaking the prompt.
So it wasn't just asking once, it was iterative.
Right. As the source put it, and this is key, the AI trained me to ask the right question.
That's a great line. It flips the dynamic, doesn't it?
It really does. And think about who usually needs this info. Often the folks actually building the tower. They aren't necessarily antenna experts.
They're the ones who'd normally go ask the experienced engineer, the person with those heuristics.
Precisely. Which leads to this great analogy in the source. The smell test versus the taste test.
Okay, explain that.
Well, ChatGPT's answers might sound okay to a non-expert. They pass the initial smell test, plausible enough. But to someone who really knows the field, who has that deep experience, the taste test, the flaws or oversimplifications become obvious pretty quickly.
So the expert's judgment is still critical. You can't just take the AI's first answer and run with it.
Not yet, anyway. You need human expertise to frame the problem correctly in the first place, and then crucially, to evaluate if the AI's output actually makes sense in the real world.
It brings us back from those, big sci-fi ideas that the source mentions, sentience, singularity.
Yeah, interesting stuff, but maybe not the most immediate concern.
Right. The more pressing thing seems to be less about if computers can think and more about how we might unconsciously change how we think or act to, fit the algorithms.
Like being trained to fulfill a role in the algorithm, as the source says. It's a subtle shift.
There was that anecdote, too, about the shoe bill video.
Oh, yeah. You watch one slightly unusual video, and suddenly your feed is full of similar stuff. The algorithm learns your click and then shapes what you see next.
And that's just with relatively simple recommendation AI. It's already guiding our attention, our experience.
Exactly. Even dumb AI is already part of our lives, influencing us.
Okay, so let's wrap this up. What's the main takeaway from this deep dive into cell towers and AI?
I think it's that, AI, like ChatGPT, is powerful and can even help us figure out what questions to ask.
Like it did with the antenna height.
Right. But that human expertise, that deep understanding and critical judgment, especially in specialized fields, it's still absolutely essential. The taste test matters.
And we're already living with algorithms shaping our world in subtle ways, like those recommendation engines.
We are. It's happening now.
So here's a final thought for you, the listener. Maybe take a moment to consider how algorithms might be quietly shaping your understanding, your experiences, even your interests. In what small ways might you already be adapting, becoming, part of the algorithm?